The MotoGP world has suddenly been shaken by news that could change Marc Márquez's future. The champion's secret contract is reportedly hiding a surprising loophole that could potentially open the door for Márquez to leave Ducati much earlier than expected, even after spending just one season with the Italian factory team. If this information is true, the situation inside Ducati could turn into a major drama and shake up the MotoGP rider market. So what exactly does Marc Márquez's contract reportedly contain that is now coming to light? Let's discuss. Marc Márquez's future with Ducati has suddenly come back into the spotlight. Amid increasingly intense MotoGP competition and growing concerns about his physical condition, information has emerged about the structure of the world champion's contract, which is reportedly far more flexible than previously believed. If the information is accurate, Márquez may not be fully committed to Ducati for 2 complete seasons. The revelation comes from Carlo Pernat, one of the most experienced veterans in the MotoGP paddock. According to Pernat, Márquez's contract with Ducati does indeed run for 2 years, but its structure is reportedly based on a 1+1 arrangement. This means the first season serves as a crucial period for evaluating the situation before the partnership continues into the following year. According to Pernat, Márquez's biggest issue right now is no longer his ability or speed on the track. Nobody doubts the capabilities of the Spanish rider. His experience, racecraft, braking ability, bike control, and instinct for finding opportunities have made Márquez one of the most dangerous riders on the grid. However, his physical condition is a far more complex concern. Márquez has gone through a long period filled with injuries. After suffering a serious crash at Mandalika in 2025, he had to undergo a lengthy recovery process and readapt to the physical demands of MotoGP. Now that he is in his 30s, a rider's body naturally does not always recover as quickly as it did when he was younger. Modern MotoGP is also becoming increasingly brutal physically. The bikes feature increasingly aggressive aerodynamic devices. Braking takes place under extreme loads, while riders must change direction rapidly and maintain concentration for dozens of laps. Because of that, Márquez's speed alone is not enough. Ducati also needs confidence that his body can sustain that level of performance throughout an entire season. If Pernat's information is accurate, a 1+1 contract could provide a solution that benefits both sides. Ducati gets the opportunity to retain one of the best riders in the world without taking on excessive long-term risk. Márquez, meanwhile, gets the chance to prove that he can still compete at the highest level without being locked into a lengthy contract if physical problems return. The scenario is fairly simple. If Márquez remains competitive, wins races, consistently scores points, and once again becomes a strong world championship contender, there would be little reason for Ducati to change its plans. The second year would simply become a natural continuation of their project. But if injuries or physical problems seriously affect his performance again, the situation could be very different. The first season could become a decisive evaluation point for his future with Ducati. In other words, that opening year could be Márquez's biggest test yet. Another factor that makes this information even more intriguing is Ducati's strategy for preparing the next generation. Ducati obviously cannot rely on just one rider, no matter how talented that rider may be. That is why the manufacturer continues to monitor young talents who could potentially become the future leaders of its project. One of the most intriguing names is Pedro Acosta. The young rider is considered to have enormous potential and has demonstrated exceptional ability since entering the MotoGP class. In addition to Acosta, Ducati also has riders such as Fermín Aldeguer and Nicolo Bolega, who could become part of the manufacturer's long-term plans. This strategy suggests that Ducati is essentially playing 2 games at once. On one hand, they need Márquez's experience and ability to win the championship right now. On the other hand, they must make sure that when the Márquez era eventually comes to an end, they already have a successor ready to take over. Another interesting detail comes from Márquez's earning structure. According to Pernat, Márquez does not rely solely on a massive fixed salary. A significant portion of his potential earnings is reportedly tied to performance-based bonuses. That means victories, podium finishes, and major achievements throughout the season could provide a very substantial boost to his income. A system like this also reflects Ducati's level of confidence in Márquez. Ducati is willing to provide major incentives when the rider delivers major results. For Márquez, the structure also serves as an additional motivation. The more competitive he is on the track, the greater the financial rewards he can earn. However, this system also highlights one important point. Márquez's value is closely tied to his performance. That brings us to the biggest question surrounding the entire situation. Márquez still has the ability to make the difference. But MotoGP is not simply about how fast a rider can go over a single lap. A world champion must be able to survive an entire season, manage the tyres, avoid injuries, maintain consistency, and remain competitive when conditions are less than perfect. Márquez himself now has far more experience and maturity than he did in his younger years. He may not always take the same risks he once did, but that does not automatically mean his courage has disappeared. Instead, he understands that a single crash can destroy months of hard work. In a championship battle, sometimes finishing lower down the order while still bringing home valuable points is far more important than taking a huge risk for a momentary victory. If the 1+1 structure is indeed part of the agreement between Márquez and Ducati, then his first season carries far more significance than simply being another year of competition. Ducati will be watching to determine whether Márquez can still remain the centerpiece of their project. Márquez, meanwhile, will be determined to prove that age and his history of injuries have not diminished his ability to become a world champion. It is a two-way gamble. Ducati is betting its project on a world champion who has already proven that he can win races and championships. At the same time, Márquez is betting on an important season to show that he still deserves to be one of the leading riders in the MotoGP title fight. If everything goes according to plan, their partnership could continue without any major issues. However, if his physical condition once again becomes a serious obstacle, the reported exit clause in his contract structure could become extremely important. Márquez's future at Ducati may not be determined solely by the number of victories he achieves or his position in the championship standings. The biggest factor could be something a rider cannot fully control: the durability of his body. Ducati still needs Márquez as their main weapon to secure victories and maintain their dominance in MotoGP. At the same time, however, they are already looking toward the future by preparing the next generation of riders who could eventually take over that role. And if the 1+1 contract is indeed real, then the next year could be a very decisive period in Márquez's journey with Ducati. This period will not be solely about performance on the track. It could also determine whether Ducati will continue to keep Márquez for the long term or begin giving greater opportunities to his potential successor. Will Márquez once again prove that he is still the unstoppable MotoGP monster, or will his physical condition open the door to a new chapter in his career? Let us know what you think in the comments below.